Hello and welcome. My name is Jody Karapanzik, and I'm a certified long-term care ombudsman. An ombudsman is an advocate for residents living in long-term care facilities. In Kentucky, long-term care ombudsmen go into nursing homes, personal care homes, and family care homes, where we advise and empower residents by educating them on residents' rights, working in confidence with resident consent to resolve issues that arise in the long-term care facility, and we also provide information to consumers and families about how to find a long-term care facility and what to do in order to get quality care. Long-term care ombudsmen are the only individuals in the nation that go to the bedside of residents and take their perspective and direction to resolve their complaints. The Kentucky Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program prepared this guide to help you and your loved ones know more about residents' rights. Residents' rights were part of the nursing home reform law enacted in 1987 by the U.S. Congress. Residents' rights were also incorporated into the Kentucky state statutes. These laws require nursing homes to care for residents in a manner that promotes and enhances the quality of life of each resident, ensuring dignity, choice, and self-determination. Residents have the right to exercise their rights as a resident of that facility and as a citizen of the United States of America. Join me as we talk about residents' rights. The experience of living with illness can dampen your sense of self and your capabilities. Sudden changes in health, independence, and living arrangements may cause a sense of powerlessness. New residents, both those planning to stay short-term and those staying long-term, find themselves thrust into an unfamiliar environment with new rules and new social codes. It's common to have questions about what you're allowed to do and what your rights are. Long-term care ombudsmen are here to provide you information, support, and encouragement as you exercise those rights. Residents' rights place a strong emphasis on individual dignity and self-determination. It's easier to exercise your rights for a better long-term care experience if you're knowledgeable and empowered. You have the same rights as your fellow residents. It is our hope that every resident will feel comfortable to be themselves, freely participate in a community of people, and effectively deal with the problems of everyday life. It is equally important that residents respect each other's differences. Long-term care ombudsmen are here to provide you with information and help you resolve any concerns that you, the resident, may have. These ombudsmen are advocates that understand you may not want to upset your caregivers, and sometimes you may not have the energy to figure out how to get help. Long-term care ombudsmen do not discriminate on the basis of age, race, color, creed, national origin, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Your ombudsman will visit you. We hope you will enjoy these visits and ask questions, discuss what's on your mind, or let us help you with any complaints or concerns that you may have. No one wants to go into a nursing home, and because of that, most people do not plan ahead for it. It's normal to feel overwhelmed and have lots of questions about your new home. Questions like, does the nursing home have responsibilities to me? What about my rights? Who will help me? The 1987 Nursing Home Reform Law requires each nursing home to care for its residents in a manner that promotes and enhances the quality of life of each resident. All nursing homes are required to provide services and activities to attain or maintain the highest practicable physical, mental, and psychosocial well-being of each resident in accordance with a written care plan. That care plan is initially prepared with participation to the extent practicable of the resident's family, or legal representative. This means when you enter into a nursing home, you should not decline in health or well-being as a result of the way that the nursing facility provides care. Remember, you are the center of the long-term care universe, and nursing facilities must protect and promote the rights of residents that call those facilities home. Facilities must ensure that residents can exercise their rights without interference, coercion, discrimination, or reprisal from the facility. Residents who have been adjudged incompetent by the state court have the right to designate a representative who may exercise the resident's rights to the extent provided by state law. The same-sex spouse of a resident must be afforded treatment equal to that afforded to an opposite-sex spouse if the marriage was valid in the jurisdiction in which it was celebrated. The resident retains the right to exercise those rights not delegated to a resident representative, including the right to revoke a delegation of rights, except as limited by state law. The facility shall not extend the resident representative the right to make decisions on behalf of the resident beyond the extent required by the court or delegated by the resident. The resident's wishes and preferences must be considered in the exercise of rights by the representative. What does a long-term care ombudsman do? It never fails. When I tell someone that I'm a long-term care ombudsman, they always ask, "What's that? What does an ombudsman do?" Ombudsmen work to resolve complaints made by or for residents that live in long-term care facilities. We educate consumers as well as long-term care providers about residents' rights and good care practices. We promote community involvement through volunteer opportunities. We provide information to the public on nursing homes and other long-term care facilities and services, residents' rights, and legislative and policy issues. At our core, we are advocates for residents' rights and quality care in nursing homes, personal care, residential care, and other long-term care facilities in Kentucky. Long-term care ombudsmen promote the development of citizen organizations like family councils and resident councils, two very important vehicles for change if you or a loved one are living in a nursing home. Long-term care facilities are required by law to provide a private space for residents to meet, discuss their experiences with other residents, and talk about the issues or concerns that they're facing. If invited by the residents, a long-term care ombudsman can attend a resident or family council and help inform residents of their rights and services available to them by the ombudsman program. When an individual enters into a long-term care facility, they maintain all of their rights that they had under the U.S. Constitution. In fact, these individuals gain an additional set of rights called residence rights, which offers protections against situations or experiences that residents commonly face. Like I said before, as long-term care ombudsmen, we want to help you and your loved ones be aware of and understand your rights. You truly are the center of our universe. As a nursing home resident, you have certain rights and protections under federal and state law that help ensure you get the care and services that you need. The 1987 Nursing Home Reform Law protects the following rights of nursing home residents. Residents have the right to expect dignity, respect, and freedom, to be fully informed. Residents have the right to complain, to participate in their own care. Residents have a right to privacy and confidentiality. Residents have a right to have transfer and discharge protections. Residents have a right to have visitors, and residents have a right to make independent choices. Remember when I said that you are the center of the long-term care universe? Since it's all about you, nursing facilities must make an effort to protect you and other residents from harm. As a nursing home resident, you have the right to be treated with consideration, respect, and dignity. All residents have the right to be addressed how they want. This includes using residents' preferred pronouns, as well as addressing residents by their preferred name. Residents also have the right to be clothed and groomed in a manner that's consistent with their gender identity. Residents also have the right to be free from mental and physical abuse, corporal punishment, involuntary seclusion, and physical and chemical restraints. Facility staff cannot refuse to provide care due to a resident's sexual orientation, nor can staff harass a resident due to his or her gender identity. As a nursing home resident, you have the right to self-determination. This means you have a right to direct your future and have control over your life and your care. A nursing home resident has the right to share a room with their spouse when married residents live in the same facility and both spouses consent to the arrangement. Residents have the right to share a room with their roommate of choice when practicable and when both residents live in the same facility and when both residents consent. Lastly, residents have the right to interact with members of the community and to participate in community activities both inside and outside the facility. Nursing home residents also have the right to security of their possessions when they enter into long-term care facilities. Oftentimes, it's our possessions, the pictures of our loved ones, sentimental pieces that remind us of past travels and good memories, clothing or jewelry items that hold important significance. It's these items that we reach for when we find ourselves lonely, isolated, or depressed. Nursing facilities have a responsibility to resident property and possessions. When entering into a nursing facility, staff should maintain a written inventory system for clothing and other valuable items. This is signed by the resident and the representative. The resident and responsible party need to make sure to update this inventory listing periodically during the stay. Consider copying or scanning receipts, maintaining an electronic file of online purchases. It is a great idea to keep all residents' passwords for their accounts secure to protect from identity theft. Report fraud to credit reporting agencies like Experian or TransUnion. Details on how to file fraud reports with these credit reporting facilities are featured in the Residents' Rights booklet. Passed in 2010, the Elder Justice Act is the first comprehensive legislation to address the abuse, neglect, and exploitation of older adults at the federal level. The law authorized a variety of programs and initiatives to better coordinate federal responses to elder abuse, promote elder justice research and innovation, support adult protective service systems, and provide additional protection for residents of long-term care facilities. These protections include substantial penalties for facilities that fail to report a crime against an elderly person living in a long-term care facility. The Elder Justice Act requires facilities to report any reasonable suspicion of crime committed against a resident of the facility to the secretary and at least one local law enforcement entity. This act establishes 2 time limits for sending in a report. First, when there is a serious bodily injury done to the resident, the facility should report the suspicion immediately, but not later than 2 hours after forming the suspicion. All other incidents should be reported by the facility within 24 hours. You have the right to be fully informed. This means when you're a nursing home resident, you have the right to have correct information about your health or disability, to be informed of available options, and to be told what is being done to you and why. Nursing facilities should fully inform residents and representatives or guardians about available services and charges for each service, facility rules, regulations, including a copy of the resident's rights, address and telephone number of the state ombudsman and state survey agency, state survey reports and the nursing home's plan of correction, advance plans of change in rooms or roommates, assistance if a sensory impairment exists. Residents have a right to receive information in a language that they understand. You have the right to present grievances or complaints to the facility or other agencies like the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program, Office of the Inspector General, Adult Protective Services, Protection and Advocacy, and others. You have the right to share these grievances without discrimination or reprisal and without fear of discrimination. You can complain about care and treatment, the lack of care and treatment, the behavior of staff and other residents, and other concerns regarding your stay at the facility. The facility must make prompt efforts to resolve grievances. Your nursing home may have an anonymous complaint phone line. If English is not your primary language, the facility is required to provide translation services to you so you can express your complaints. Many residents fear if they complain, they will be retaliated against for speaking out negatively about their caregivers. This fear is very real for many residents and oftentimes keeps residents from disclosing their concerns to staff or even ombudsman. Your long-term care ombudsman will work with you in confidence and will not disclose your name or any other resident identifying information to facility staff unless told by the resident or guardian. We can stand beside residents as they present their own concerns to staff, or if the resident wishes, the ombudsman can present the problem to staff and work on behalf to resolve the problem for that resident. You have a right to participate in your own care. Being an active, participating agent in your own healthcare has been shown to improve outcomes and experiences for residents living in healthcare settings, including nursing facilities. By actively involving residents, facility staff ensure that residents, the center of the long-term care universe, receive and understand information about their condition, including treatment and ultimately improving quality of life, especially compared to those residents who did not actively receive information about their health condition. As a nursing home resident, you have the right to receive adequate and appropriate care. Long-term care is an expensive service, and you deserve to get the services that you pay for. You have the right to be informed of all changes in your medical condition, even if those changes are negative and involving the resident may upset them. You have the right to be informed of all changes in your medical record. You have the right to participate in your own assessment, care planning, treatment, and discharge planning. You have the right to identify individuals to be included in the planning process. You have the right to request meetings about your care and request revisions to the person-centered plan of care. You have the right to participate in establishing goals and outcomes of care, the type of care, frequency, and duration of care, and any other factors related to the effectiveness of the plan of care that you will receive while living at the nursing home. You have the right to receive the services and items included in the plan of care and to be informed in advance of changes to that plan of care. You have the right to refuse medication and treatment. You have the right to see the care plan and receive a copy of that signed care plan. If you ever wish to access your medical records, you have the right to do so. The facility must provide you with access to personal and medical records upon oral or written consent within 24 hours. This excludes weekends and holidays. The facility must allow the resident to obtain a copy of the records or any portion thereof, including in an electronic form or format when such records are maintained electronically, upon request and 2 working days advance notice to the facility. The facility may impose a reasonable cost-based fee on the provision of copies, provided that the fee includes only the cost of labor for copying those records, supplies for creating the paper copy or electronic media if the individual requests that the electronic copy be provided on portable media, and postage when the individual has requested the copy be mailed. You have the right to refuse chemical and physical restraints. You have the right to be free from any physical or chemical restraint imposed for purposes of discipline or convenience and not required to treat your medical symptoms. If restraints are required to treat your medical symptoms, the facility must use the least restrictive alternative for the least amount of time and must document their evaluation of continued need for that restraint. You have the right to be free from charges for services that are already covered by Medicare or Medicaid. Many think that once they enter into a nursing home, privacy is something of the past. Perhaps you've lived alone for a very long time, you've been able to provide your own care, and then one day, everything changes. You have to go into a nursing home where you're forced to live with a stranger you've never met, and you may be relying on other strangers to provide you with very intimate care practices that you once could do on your own. The right to have privacy and confidentiality in care practices while living in a nursing home is so important for the residents that live there. This right gives nursing home residents the right to private and unrestricted communication with any person of your choice, to reasonable access to a telephone, including TTY and DTT services, and a place in the facility where calls can be made without being overheard. This includes the right to retain and use a cell phone at your own expense. You have the right to privacy in using electronic communications, such as email and video communications, and for internet search. You have the right to send and promptly receive unopened mail, letters, packages, and other materials delivered to the facility. You have the right to privacy regarding your body, and all care must be given in a manner that maximizes your privacy. Lastly, you have the right to privacy regarding medical, personal, or financial affairs. The threat of transfer or discharge from a nursing home can be both frightening and stressful for residents and their families. Too often, a facility may respond to a resident's difficulties or increasing need for care or repeated questions or complaints from family members by attempting to transfer or discharge that resident. The Nursing Home Reform Law prohibits nursing homes from transferring or discharging a resident unless it can establish one of the permissible reasons for transfer or discharge. These reasons include transfer or discharge is necessary for your welfare and your needs cannot be met in the facility. Transfer and discharge is appropriate because your health has improved sufficiently, so you no longer need the services you were once provided. Transfer and discharge is needed because the safety of individuals in the facility is endangered due to the clinical or behavioral status of a resident. Transfer or discharge is needed because the health of individuals in the facility would otherwise be endangered. Transfer or discharge is an option for the facility when you have failed after reasonable and appropriate notice to pay for or have paid under Medicare or Medicaid your stay at the facility. Lastly, you may be transferred or discharged if it is necessary because the facility ceases to operate. Sometimes facilities close, and this can be a very frightening and stressful process for residents and their families. If the nursing home voluntarily closes, you have the right to a 60-day written notice of discharge to make an informed decision about where your new home will be. Nursing home residents also have the right to receive a 30-day discharge notice of transfer or discharge. This notice must include the reason, effective date, location in which the resident is being transferred or discharged to. They have the right to appeal and the name, address, and telephone number of the state long-term care ombudsman. Nursing home residents have the right to a safe transfer or discharge through sufficient preparation by the nursing home. And residents have the right to be informed of the bed hold or bed reservation policy. Before a nursing facility transfers you to a hospital or you go on leave, the nursing facility must provide written information to you or your representative that specifies the duration of the state bed hold policy during which you are permitted to return and resume residence in the nursing facility. If your hospitalization or therapeutic leave exceeds the bed hold period under the Medicaid state plan and you return to the facility, you should be able to return to your room. If your previous room is not available and you need nursing facility care, you should be able to return to the first available bed in a semi-private room. If you're a resident in a nursing home and receive a discharge notice, there is an appeal process, and the Long-Term Care Ombudsman can help you with this process. If you appeal a discharge, you have the right to remain in the facility while the appeal is pending unless the failure to discharge or transfer would endanger the health or safety of the residents or other individuals at the facility. The facility must document the danger that failure to transfer or discharge would pose. A complaint about the discharge may also be filed with the Kentucky State Survey Agency, which is the Office of Inspector General. As a nursing home resident, you have the right to be visited by your relatives, friends, and anyone else of your choosing. You have the right to receive visits from who you choose at the time of your choosing, including but not limited to a spouse, including same-sex spouse, a domestic partner, including same-sex partner, another family member, or a friend. You have the right to be visited by your personal physician and representatives from the State Survey Agency, which is the Office of Inspector General, and the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. You have the right to deny, refuse, or end visits as well with anyone that you would like. Residents' rights supports a person's ability to both participate in their own plan of care, and also these rights give residents the power to make independent choices in their lives. Being able to make your own person-centered decision is something we all take for granted. Many of us fail to realize the power we hold in ourselves when we are empowered and encouraged. Residents' rights supports a resident's right to make an independent choice, like what to wear, how to spend your free time. You have the right to choose activities, schedules, healthcare, and providers of healthcare services consistent with your interests, assessments, and plan of care. You have the right to make choices about your life in the facility that are significant to you. This right to make independent choice also includes a resident's right to reasonable accommodation of your needs and preferences, again, to choose your own physician, to participate in community activities both inside and outside of the nursing home, to organize and participate in a resident council, to manage your own financial affairs. And this includes the right to know in advance what charges a facility may impose against your personal funds. The facility must not require you to deposit your personal funds with the facility. If you choose to deposit personal funds with the facility upon your written authorization, the facility must act as fiduciary of your funds and hold, safeguard, manage, and account for those personal funds that are deposited within that facility. The facility must establish and maintain a system that assures a full and complete separate accounting according to generally accepted accounting principles of your personal funds entrusted to the facility on your behalf. Your financial record must be available to you through quarterly statements and upon request. If you receive Medicaid benefits, the facility must notify you when the amount in your account reaches $200 less than the Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, resource limit. The limit for one person is $2,000 and $3,000 for a couple. The facility must let you know when your resources are at this limit because you may lose eligibility for Medicaid or SSI if these resources are not spent down on allowable expenses. Upon the discharge, eviction, or death of a resident with personal funds deposited within the facility must convey within 30 days of the resident's funds and a final accounting of those funds to the resident, or in the case of death, the individual or probate jurisdiction administering the resident's estate in accordance with the state law. If you or a loved one are a resident at a long-term care facility and you need an advocate, please reach out to the Kentucky State Long-Term Care Ombudsman.